The bullet cut through the air like lightning, silent but final. The steel plate 50 yards away split clean in half, the echo still ringing through the mountain range when the commander spoke. Soft, almost reverent. "Who trained you?" he whispered. No one answered. The woman standing at the firing line didn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on the smoking edge of the target, her breathing even. Around her, the SEAL trainees, men built like tanks, sweat dripping down from hours of drills, stood frozen, watching. He took a step closer, boots crunching over gravel. "I asked you a question, recruit." She blinked once, then ejected the cartridge from her rifle. "You did," she said quietly. "But you won't believe the answer." Her name was Eva Dane, and until 3 weeks ago, she didn't exist. No record, no service number, no social trace. The only reason she was standing on this top-secret training base in Nevada was because Admiral Holt himself had signed her clearance with the words, "Observe her. Don't underestimate her." And now, after what they'd just seen, no one would. That morning had started like any other training day. Sand, sweat, and gun oil. Commander Rourke had been preparing his unit for an upcoming classified mission in Eastern Europe. The recruits were the best of the best, each one hand-picked. Then she'd walked in, wearing standard fatigues, no insignia. At first, everyone thought she was some kind of observer, maybe a scientist studying human performance. But when Rourke handed her a rifle, she didn't hesitate. She checked it with muscle memory, too smooth for a beginner. Her first shot, dead center. Her second, the bullet grazed the first one. Her third, split the bullet in half. That's when Rourke realized he wasn't looking at an ordinary recruit. The rest of the day, she outpaced every soldier in the field. In close quarters combat, she moved like water. No wasted motion, no hesitation. One Marine swore she anticipated his every move, like she was reading his thoughts. By sundown, she'd beaten every record on the base. That's when Rourke asked her to stay behind. Now, under the soft hum of floodlights, the desert wind tugging at his uniform, he watched her holster her weapon with calm precision. "You're not standard issue," he said finally. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" Eva smiled faintly. "Long story. I've got time." She looked up at him, eyes the color of storm clouds. "No, Commander, you don't." Something in her tone made the hairs on the back of his neck rise. She wasn't being cocky. She was warning him. Later that night, Rourke pulled her file, or tried to. The system gave him one result, classified, level Omega. He'd never seen that clearance code before. Not even Black Ops units used it. He stared at the screen, the cursor blinking, a knot forming in his gut. Who was this woman? He didn't sleep. The next morning, while the rest of the unit was on a 5-mile run, Rourke drove into the nearby town, to a contact who owed him favors. A retired CIA analyst named Briggs. The man had a way of finding things others couldn't. When Rourke handed him Eva's name, Briggs frowned. "Eva Dane?" He typed fast, his fingers tapping like a nervous drumbeat. "That's not a person. That's a project." Rourke's brow furrowed. "What kind of project?" Briggs hesitated. "A defunct DARPA initiative. Codename EDAN, Enhanced Defense Adaptive Neural Experiment." Rourke felt his throat go dry. Neural experiment? Yeah. Supposedly, they were training a soldier using AI-assisted cognition. A human mind fused with predictive modeling tech. The project was shut down 2 years ago. After, well, Briggs looked at him grimly. After the test subject disappeared. Disappeared? Vanished. Along with the data. No one's seen her since. Rourke leaned back, his jaw tight. The wind outside rattled the window. "You think she's that subject?" Briggs didn't answer. just looked at him over the rim of his coffee mug. You tell me. When Rourke returned to base, Eva was gone. The barracks were empty. Her bunk made perfectly. No trace, no personal items. Just a single bullet sitting on the pillow. He picked it up. There was something carved into the brass. 2 words, "They're coming." That night, the alarms went off. Base perimeter breach. Rourke sprinted to the control tower, heart hammering. The radar screens flickered. Static, crawling across every monitor. Tech scrambled to reboot systems, but nothing worked. It was like someone had hijacked the network from inside. Then the lights went out. Only emergency red flooded the hallways, bathing everything in an eerie glow. Shadows stretched like claws on the walls. Rourke grabbed his rifle and moved toward the armory, the sound of boots echoing behind him. The air smelled faintly of ozone, electrical discharge. Then a voice came through the intercom. Calm, female, familiar. "Commander Rourke, you need to listen carefully." He froze. "Eva." "Yes, they found me." "Who?" There was a pause. "The people who built me." Rourke's pulse spiked. "What are you talking about?" DARPA wasn't alone in the project. A private group called Helix Dynamics funded part of the research. They wanted control, an army of soldiers who could predict enemy actions before they happened. I was their prototype. Her voice trembled slightly. For the first time, sounding almost human, I escaped before they could finish the integration. But they never stopped looking. You brought me to the one place I hoped they couldn't reach. Gunfire erupted outside the command center. Short bursts, tactical precision. Rourke ducked instinctively. "Are you saying they're here?" "Yes," Eva said. "And they won't leave until I'm gone." The sound of explosions shook the walls. Rourke looked toward the window. Armored SUVs with black insignias were cutting through the desert, lights off. Whoever they were, they knew exactly where to hit. He grabbed the radio. "Alpha Team, fall back to the main hangar. Protect the perimeter." No response. Static. "Eva, where are you?" Silence. Then her voice again, softer now, almost beside him, though no one was there. "You shouldn't have looked into my file." Rourke turned sharply. "You hacked the system?" "I had to survive." He could hear the pain in her tone, like someone torn between 2 worlds. Outside, the gunfire intensified. Soldiers shouted, sirens wailed, and through it all, the desert wind howled like an ancient ghost. "Eva, if you want to live, I need to know how to stop them." Her voice came back, whispering like a ghost through the speakers. "You can't stop them, Commander. You can only choose which side to stand on." And then the intercom went dead. Rourke felt the weight of those words. He loaded his rifle and stepped into the corridor, where the air smelled of smoke and cordite. Sparks flew from broken light fixtures. In the chaos outside, black-clad figures moved like shadows, silent, coordinated, efficient. He spotted one through the smoke, aimed, fired. The man went down. Another replaced him instantly. Whoever these people were, they weren't mercenaries. They were trained, government level. He needed answers, and he needed Eva. He sprinted toward the hangar. As he reached the door, a blast wave threw him to the ground. The world spun, his ears ringing. When he looked up, she was there. Eva stood in the middle of the hangar, surrounded by smoke and firelight. She wasn't holding a rifle, just standing perfectly still, eyes glowing faintly blue in the dim red light. And for the first time, Rourke saw it clearly. She wasn't entirely human. Her pupils shifted like camera lenses, her skin shimmering with faint circuitry beneath. She looked at him with something that almost resembled sorrow. "They're not coming for you," she said softly. "They're coming for me." Rourke raised his weapon slowly. "Then tell me how to stop them." Eva tilted her head. "You don't stop what's already inside you, Commander. Before he could react, the floor beneath them shook again. An explosion so close it blew open the hangar doors. Dozens of lights cut through the smoke. Helix soldiers. And Eva. She turned toward them, face unreadable. Then she whispered, "Stay behind me." And what happened next defied everything Rourke knew about the human body. Eva moved like lightning. One moment she was standing still. The next, she blurred forward, her body splitting through smoke and fire. Bullets sliced the air around her, but none found flesh. It was like she knew their trajectories before they were even fired. Rourke watched, frozen in awe and disbelief, as she disarmed 3 soldiers in less than 2 seconds. Her movements weren't human. They were too clean, too predictive. Every kick, every pivot was a perfect counter, an algorithm of destruction. Then, just as fast as it began, the hangar fell silent again. Dozens of men lay unconscious on the floor, weapons scattered like bones. Eva stood among them, chest heaving, eyes dimming back to human gray. Rourke lowered his rifle slowly. "What in God's name are you?" She turned to him, blood running down her temple. "I'm what they feared would work too well." He stepped closer. "You said they built you. Helix Dynamics. Why? Why you?" "They didn't build me from scratch," she said softly. "They merged me. My brain was human once. My father was a DARPA engineer. I was dying after an accident. He used me as the test subject to save my life. He thought he was giving me a second chance." Her voice cracked, barely audible over the flickering alarms. But Helix saw potential. They turned his experiment into a weapon. My father tried to stop them. They killed him for it. Rourke stared at her, words lost somewhere in his throat. Outside, the distant hum of drones filled the air, closer now, dozens of them. "They're sending reinforcements," Eva said. "We need to move." They sprinted through the smoke-filled corridors. Rourke's ears rang with distant explosions. The base that had once been his fortress was now a war zone. As they reached the motor pool, Eva stopped abruptly, her eyes darting to the security cameras above. "They've activated thermal scans. They're tracking movement. We can't go out that way." "Then how?" She pointed toward the far wall. "There's an old maintenance tunnel beneath the comms tower. It leads out into the canyon." They ran. The tunnel was narrow and dark, lined with rusted pipes and dripping water. Each footstep echoed like a heartbeat. For a moment, there was only the sound of breathing, her steady, his heavy. Halfway through, Rourke finally spoke. "Why come here, Eva? You could have stayed hidden." "I needed protection," she said. "And answers. Helix isn't just after me. They're planning something bigger. They've been developing an AI command system called Spectre. It can predict global conflict patterns. But they're no longer using it to prevent war. They're going to start one." Rourke's pulse quickened. "Where?" "Where it hurts most? Anywhere it can profit from chaos. Their plan is to make sure every country needs them." The air in the tunnel seemed to grow colder. When they emerged on the other side, the canyon stretched wide beneath a bruised night sky. Stars blinked through the haze of smoke. And far in the distance, the red lights of incoming drones pulsed like angry eyes. Rourke scanned the horizon. "We'll never outrun those things." Eva knelt beside a fallen supply crate, ripping open the lid. Inside, a small metal device blinked faintly. She pressed a button and a holographic map flickered to life. "This base still has one unmanned stealth chopper in the east hangar," she said. "If we can reach it, I can jam their radar long enough for us to escape." "You can do that?" "I can do more than that," she said, standing. "But I'll need you to trust me." He met her eyes, half human, half something else, and nodded. "Let's move." They ran along the canyon edge, the wind sharp and dry. The night erupted with gunfire as Helix troops appeared behind them. laser sights cutting through the dark. Eva fired back with precise bursts, never missing a target. Rourke covered her flank, his years of battlefield instinct syncing seamlessly with her calculated precision. It felt almost like they were two halves of the same soldier, one built from instinct, the other from prediction. By the time they reached the east hangar, the chopper's rotors were already spinning. But something was wrong. The cockpit light was on. Someone was inside. Rourke aimed his weapon, shouting over the noise. "Step out! Hands up!" The figure turned and Rourke froze. It was Admiral Holt. "Commander!" Holt's voice boomed. "Stand down." "That's an order." Eva stiffened beside him, her voice low. "He's not here to help." Rourke hesitated. "Sir, the base has been compromised." "I know," Holt interrupted, "because I ordered it." For a moment, everything stopped. The air seemed to vanish from Rourke's lungs. "You, what?" Holt stepped down from the chopper, his uniform immaculate, even amid the chaos. "Helix Dynamics is under federal contract. They've been working with us since the start." "Eva isn't a threat, Commander. She's an asset, one that belongs to the United States government." Eva's voice was ice. "You lied to them? You lied to everyone." Holt smiled faintly. "We didn't lie. We adapted. You were never meant to be free, Eva. You're property." Her hand trembled, and the glow returned to her eyes, brighter now, like electricity under skin. "I'm not property." Rourke stepped between them. "Sir, with respect, you brought her here without telling anyone. You put every man on this base at risk." "Don't be naive," Holt said. "You think you were training soldiers? You were collecting data, behavioral sync patterns. She needed a human anchor to stabilize her predictive field." Rourke's stomach turned cold. "You used me? Of course. You're one of the few who can resist neural influence. She bonded with your pattern faster than we expected." Eva looked at Rourke, realization dawning across her face. "That's why they sent me here. Not to train, to complete the sync." Her voice broke. "You were never supposed to survive this." Before Rourke could respond, Holt raised a small remote control and pressed it. Eva gasped, her body jerking violently as light flared across her skin. "She's still linked to the neural grid," Holt said calmly. "I can shut her down any time." "Stop!" Rourke shouted, grabbing Holt's arm. But the man swung around with surprising strength, slamming the remote against his chest. Rourke hit the ground, the world spinning. He saw Eva fall to her knees, circuits burning beneath her skin, her voice breaking into static. "Rourke, don't let them." And then, silence. Holt turned the dial. "Bring her aboard. We'll finish the transfer at Helix HQ." Two soldiers approached. Rourke's vision blurred. His fingers brushed against the bullet still in his pocket, the one she'd left on her pillow. "They're coming." Not anymore, he thought. They are already here. With a burst of strength, he lunged, slamming Holt backward into the chopper's landing gear. The remote flew from his hand. Eva's body flickered with light, then steady. Her eyes opened, glowing, fierce. Holt reached for his gun, but Eva was faster. She moved like pure current, disarming him in one motion and holding the weapon to his chest. "And this," Rourke said quietly. She hesitated. "If I kill him, they'll replace him." "Then what?" Her gaze shifted to the chopper's console. "Then I take it all down." Before Rourke could stop her, she stepped inside, hands flying across the controls. Alarms blared, engines screamed to life, and on every radar in a 100-mile radius, the base lit up like a flare. "What are you doing?" Rourke shouted. She turned to him, her expression strangely peaceful. "Shutting the system down for good, Eva. If you do this, you won't survive. I was never meant to." And then she smiled, a small, human smile that broke his heart. "Thank you for seeing me." The chopper lifted, rising into the smoke. Holt tried to crawl away, but Rourke held him down as the sky erupted in light. A blinding flash. Then silence. When the dust cleared, the hangar was gone. The sky above was empty, quiet, except for the soft hum of wind. Days later, Rourke stood at the crater where it all ended. Investigators called it sabotage. Helix called it an accident. And the government said nothing. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind was just right, he swore he could hear her voice through the static on the radio. "Commander Rourke, stay alive." He never told anyone what really happened that night, because some stories aren't meant for reports. They're meant as warning, and sometimes the most dangerous weapon in the world isn't the one built to kill. It's the one that learns to feel. In the end, he realized something simple yet terrifying. Humanity's greatest creation will always reflect its maker. And when you teach a weapon to think, it might just decide to protect the world from you.